So good morning, welcome to Bike World. We are in Valencia, ready to ride Ducati's new Multistrada V2S. So we're on the S version, not the standard version. So that means semi-active suspension, but the same power, same torque as the standard bike. It's just a suspension upgrade rather than manual suspension. So it's incredibly windy, so I'm trying to hide away from the bikes at the moment because it is howling. But it's a hugely important bike for Ducati because this is their new V2 engine. So no longer a Desmo engine, standard normal valves like you'll find on every other bike. I'll get into a bit more of the technical details later, like the valves are actually on the intake are hollow to make it lighter. The engine is what Ducati claim is their lightest V-twin ever, which is quite remarkable if you think about it, because they've got lower capacity V-twins, which you'd think would be lighter, and back in the day they used to have air-cooled small V-twins. The frame is completely new and a massive weight saving. The wheels are lighter, the engine's lighter, whole ergonomics have changed. The distance between the foot peg and the seat is completely different. The bar position is different. All the rider aids have had to be recalibrated because you've got different power, lower capacity, more power, a little less torque, different weight, different riding position. So obviously everything has to be recalibrated. All the cornering ABS, cornering traction control, wheelie control. As standard, we get cruise control, we get manually adjustable screen, but we don't get heated grips, which I would quite like because today is a little bit fresh. We're in southern Spain. Look at that. It's pretty nice, eh? We normally start these little tests with an introduction as we leave the hotel around town, but we got absolutely drenched this morning. So, but what was interesting, we could try the wet mode, because that's completely new for this year. And we got the screen fully up. It wasn't too bad, but heated grips are an optional extra. And these new air scoops on the side just direct cold air onto you, which they're great, I guess, in summer when you're riding around Italy on a V-twin that's a bit warm, but when it's cold, it's a shame you can't close those off. But yeah, let's get going, see what the bike's all about. There's a lot to test and a lot to do on this model. This is just an epic bit of road. Oh, it should be this much fun and this sporty, I don't think, but it's those direction changes, that's where you feel it. It's just, you can flick it from left to right. I mean, we're not going crazy, but it's the transitions where you, that reduced unsprung weight with lighter wheels, that lighter chassis, lighter engine, it's just so flickable, a bit sketchy through there. Nice little burble as well. Chug 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 chug. This is a completely new Multistrada and almost a new direction for Ducati. So let's start off with the engine. So gone as the old V-twin Desmo engine, normal conventional valves and a completely different V-twin engine. Now Ducati claim that this is their lightest V-twin ever, which is quite a statement considering they still make the Scrambler, which is smaller in capacity, so you'd think would be lighter, but isn't. 54 kilograms is what they're claiming, which is 5.8 kilograms lighter than before. But it's not all about this new engine that's got the same service intervals as the previous model. It's also the chassis, because we've got the new monocoque chassis. So what that means is the engine is part of the frame. Well, the engine is the frame essentially. We've got an aluminium monocoque chassis at the front, we've got a trellis at the rear. That combined with lighter wheels, combined with the lighter engine, reduces the overall weight around about 18 kilograms, which is quite a significant saving, and also makes me think, what was the old bike made of, considering this is nearly 20 kilograms lighter? What were they making in the old bike out of? Granite? In terms of electronics and rider aids, it's a Ducati. So we expect multiple rider aids, and we expect lean sensitive ABS, lean sensitive traction control, wheelie control, engine brake, multiple modes this time. So we've got sport, touring, urban, wet, which we never had before, and enduro. Now each of those modes change the power characteristics, and they change the traction control, they change all the rider aids and parameters. You can access all those rider modes through the new switchgear and the new 5-inch screen. The switchgear is all completely new. The cruise control on the left side is completely new. We've got skyhook suspension because this is the S model, so that means the suspension is semi-active. And we've also got a little button here on the right hand side which basically takes out the preload when you come to a stop. So as you come into a stop, press that, it takes out the preload, lowers the seat. In terms of seat options, it's huge. You've got optional higher seat, optional lower seat, optional lower suspension kit, and on the standard seat you can raise or higher it to 2 different levels, 830 or 850 mil. I've been riding at 850 mil for the majority of the day. As I said, all the suspension is electronic, fully adjustable. That changes depending on what mode you're in. You can then go in that mode and change it even further. So for example, if you're in touring mode, the suspension is set to comfort, but if you want the suspension to be dynamic, you can change that. Other modifications that you can change electronically is, apart from changing the suspension, you can change the rider aids. So for example, in sports mode, I turned off the traction control, turned off the wheelie control for obvious immature reasons, and that's saved. And because I've done that, if I switch it off, walk away from the bike and switch it back on, it saves us off. What we've done today is at 200 kilometers in really kind of mixed conditions. This morning it was a bit wet, it was a bit sketchy and a bit cold. It was about 6-7 degrees and not the ideal conditions for here in Spain, but the ideal conditions for testing a bike. So flick it into that new wet mode, reduces the torque delivery, gives it loads of rider aids, makes the suspension, well, it goes actually into a mode called grip, if I remember rightly. So it's not comfort, it's grip. So it's searching for grip. It just gives you more security and a better feeling. Then as the day warmed up, into touring mode, and then finally into sports mode to see what this new engine is all about. The engine likes to rev, it likes to be a bit free. In terms of peak power, it's a little bit up on what it was previously, but in terms of peak torque, it's a little bit down, and that peak torque is much higher in the RPM than it used to be. So in terms of that peak torque, which is really important, is now we're on 67 foot-pounds of torque at 8,250-ish. Before we were on 69 foot-pounds of torque at 6,750-ish. So torque was a little bit higher and lower in the RPM. But Ducati claim that 70% of their torque is from 3,000 RPM and above. So when you're in touring mode and you're just kind of having a bit of fun, you can use that throttle from 3,000, 3,500. You're in that kind of big fat bit of torque. It's nice and drivable. When you want to have some fun, you can over rev it and rev it towards its red line. Peak power is at 10,750 RPM. So it doesn't mind having some revs thrown at it. It is quite a sporty, quite a revvy engine. It does enjoy having a few revs thrown at it. I think it probably lacks a little bit of low down torque from like 2 to 3, but then you could question who's riding it in that low 2 to 3.5 RPM. But what I can say is that the throttle delivery and throttle response lowdown is really, really smooth, really, really nice. That kind of chugginess of the old V-twin has completely gone. In some ways, when it's low in the RPM from about 2 to 3 and then 3 and above, it's almost got a multi-cylinder feel to it. It's quite smooth and really, really nice. There's a few little niggles. I don't think they've fully sorted the fueling for the quick shifter yet. This is a pre-production model, so it's not a final production model. So I think that just needs ironing out. There was a few times where I hit the quick shifter, which is really smooth, and the gearbox is really light, and it just auto-blipped 2 or 3 times. To release the preload from the shock to get your feet on the ground, which even at 5'7" I didn't have to do, it's quite a difficult button to reach, because you're braking, and when you brake you want the preload to come off because you're about to stop, and it's on the same side as the brake, so it's quite difficult to brake and hit that button at the same time to reduce the preload. And then when you get going, you have to use the button to put the preload back in, where if I remember rightly on the Multistrada V4S, it does it automatically for you at about 60 kilometers. The switchgear and the dash, this morning I was finding it really unfamiliar because it's a brand new bike with a brand new switchgear and a brand new dash. By lunchtime I was getting familiar, and then on the way back then it felt like second nature. So it's not 100% intuitive, but I was getting into it. I was getting into the flow of it. It's really nice that there's 3 different displays that you can choose from. One's like an enduro mode, which you can set trips to and it'll do it. So if you've got a travel map or you want to know where you're going on distance, it's a little bit confusing, but I guess if you were riding off-road, it'd be a bit clearer because you'd be going a bit slower. Personally, I kind of like the one where you can see all the rider aid interventions, you can see where you are, and you can see how much power you're requesting and how much torque you're requesting. And you can also see on the standard one clearly, like temperature, gear position, speed and RPM. So you've got 3 different dashes that are very, very simple. A little question is, manual screen, should it be electric on a bike that's priced this high? Heated grips, should they be standard again on a bike that's priced this high? This morning I really wanted heated grips, but by the end of it I didn't. But in the UK I think we're going to be riding in cold temperatures, and that's going to be an accessory that you're going to have to tick. So in terms of price, the base model without the Skyhook suspension starts at 14,167. The S model is 16,562, and that's without the panniers and without heated grips. Cruise control does come as standard, but at 16,562 we're starting to get a bit pricey. Now there's 2 kind of arguments for this. One is it's a premium bike, it looks great, it's got Ducati on the side, they've won MotoGP, they've won World Supers. Ducatis are supposed to be aspirational and emotive, and you're supposed to buy a Ducati with your heart and maybe not your wallet. So you can see why it's priced quite high. It's a completely new bike, completely new engine, completely new chassis. There's nothing really on this bike that will go on the old bike, I don't think, apart from maybe the calipers and the discs. So it's a completely new model from Ducati, so you expect it to be priced reasonably high. So you are putting it against bigger capacity bikes. I don't think they've got the agility, I don't think they've got the handling, because this is a really lightweight, easy to ride bike. It's really manageable at low speed, easy to get 2 feet on the ground, even without taking the preload out. But then when you get it out in the twisties and you have some fun, it does what Ducatis do well, and that is handle. I don't think there's another bike in this class, well that's quite a statement, that is this agile and this flickable through this twisty stuff. It's so much lighter than the competition. It's so much more agile than the competition. You can really have fun, and ground clearance is ample. It's enjoyable to ride. That over rev on the engine, you can chase the revs and have some fun, but equally the last section then I was all in touring mode and just let the bike do what it wanted to do and carried loads of corner speed and just enjoyed it. It's really easy. It's the transition between corners. So in the UK it's kind of like when you flick between roundabouts, and here in Spain it's going from hairpin to hairpin to hairpin to hairpin. It's been effortless, and we've spent all day on the bike and comfort has not been an issue. The distance between the seat and the pegs has increased slightly. The bars are nice and wide. For me, it feels like a pleasant place to be for all day, for many days. It feels comfortable. But what we're going to have to do at Bike World is put a few more miles on this bike. It's going to be interesting to see what it's like after 300, 400, maybe 500 miles. It's going to be interesting to see what it's like when we get a pillion. It's going to be interesting to see what Chris thinks of it when we go off-road, and it's going to be interesting to see how it goes against the competition at that £16,500 price tag. So all in all, a hugely impressive bike for Ducati. It's almost difficult to compare it to the old Multistrada because it's nearly 20 kilograms lighter. It's got more top end power, it's got more revs, it's got more rider aids, it's got more of everything. So it's almost a difficult comparison. What the big question mark is going to be when it goes against the competition because of that £16,500 price tag. And it's also going to be interesting when we test this engine in the Panigale and the Streetfighter to come. But thanks for watching. If you enjoyed our quick review, it's been a bit blustery, it's been a bit cold and been a bit grim, but it's been thoroughly enjoyable. If you've got any in-depth technical questions, fire them below. Me, Chris or Al will get back to you. Thanks for watching. Ducati have managed to find a belting bit of road and closed it especially for us, just so we can get a bit of a feel. Oh yeah. Dear Ducati, thank you for closing the road and making it fun, because this just highlights how light and accessible the Multistrada is. Bar. That is good.